Hi, we're going to read a story called Dragonfly Tale by Christina Rodanis. This is a story that was told to the people of the Zuni tribe in New Mexico of Native Americans. They use many times, just like we do, they tell story. People tell stories to try to teach a lesson. And these legends are passed on from generation to generation. And I just thought this was a nice one to emphasize the lesson of being grateful for what you have and how this legend was told long ago and probably is still being told today. So let's get started with the Dragonfly's Tale. Many lifetimes ago, in the days of the ancient ones, there lived a tribe of people known as the Ashiwi. Their village was called Hawika, and it sat on the top of a hill. The houses were built side by side in the shape of a great honeycomb. Two powerful spirits, the maidens of the white and yellow corn, watched over the village. And each spring they would send warm winds to chase away the snow. In the summer they brought friendly rains to nourish the cornfields of Hawika. The corn plants grew straight and strong with the corn maidens' blessings. Year after year, the people harvested more than they could eat, and the storerooms overflowed with corn. One day, after the last of the ripe corn had been gathered and stored away, a group of children had a mud fight. Their laughter echoed down the narrow streets as they playfully threw lumps of dirt and mud at each other. The head chief of the tribe saw this game. Watching the children play, he thought of a plan to show off his people's wealth. He called a meeting of all the elders to share his scheme. "The Ashiwi must celebrate their richest harvest with a mock battle," announced the chief in his strong voice. "Our weapons will be made of bread, batter, and dough. Let us invite our neighbors to take part. How they will envy our prosperity when they see us using our food for play." "Yes, yes," agreed all the elders. "Let us begin." And they praised the cleverness of their leader. The elders ordered the people to prepare for the festivities. The swiftest runners were sent to summon the guests from the surrounding villages. Excited, the people set to work chopping wood to fuel the ovens and grinding corn into meal. The cooking fires roared and crackled. The air was sweet with the smell of baking bread and boiling mush. On the day of the celebration, the corn maidens came to go to Hawika to see this commotion. Disguised as old, bedraggled women, they limped into town. No one even noticed the warm, misty wind that came with them. As the crowded village plaza at the plaza, the corn maidens paused to look around. Everyone and everywhere, there were bowls and baskets filled with batter and dough. Mounds of cakes streamed into the windows. Stacks of bread covered the housetops. A boy and his little sister sat nearby, munching corn cakes drenched in honey. When they saw how ragged and hungry the two women looked, they held out their hand to offer some food. One of the elders quickly snatched it away. "Good food should not be wasted on beggars," he scolded. "These women were too lazy to grow their own corn, and they are like hungry coyotes looking for an easy meal." Suddenly, the plaza grew silent as the chief began to divide the people into teams. With a nod of his head, the great battle began. Everyone laughed as they ducked flying bread and biscuits. One team hurled balls of dough while the other threw globs of batter. The invited neighbors stared in bewilderment as their hosts smeared each other with precious food. Just all the wasteful food. The corn maidens watched the fight with heavy hearts. They had blessed the Ashiwi with an abundance of food, but the people had thrown away their gifts. "It is time to teach our children a lesson," said one maiden to the other, and then, like wind-blown smoke, they vanished. When the games ended, the guests went home. They were disgusted. While the moon rose over the town, the seed eaters scampered into the plaza. Silently, armies of mice and gophers and bugs and birds carried away every crumb of food. They tunneled into the storerooms. They stole the corn. They worked through the night. The corn maidens warned them that a great famine was soon to come to the village of Hakiwa. The people could hardly believe their eyes the next morning. All the wasted food that had covered the village streets had disappeared. The storerooms were half empty. "Who cares?" they asked one another. "We have more than enough corn to last the winter until our next great harvest." Winter came and was slow to pass. Warm winds arrived late, and the rains never fell to moisten the earth. The priests sang their most sacred chants. They danced their powerful rituals, but the corn maidens refused to send blessings. The corn plants grew weak, and they withered in the hot, cracked earth. Their storerooms bare, the people ate cactus and ground bones. Autumn arrived, and then winter, and the famine deepened. The snows came, and they were heavier than anyone could ever recall being before. Oh, what was to be done? The chief called together a council. "We will go to our neighbors and will ask for help. If we delay, we will starve. We must leave for their village tonight." The people rushed to collect their warmest robes and blankets. They hurried from their homes and scrambled into the icy darkness. Well, in one house, the boy and the sister, they were forgotten. They woke up. He climbed the ladder to the sky hole and gazed all around. The village was empty. Although he was frightened, he knew he would need to comfort his sister. Perhaps he could make a beautiful toy or something to remind her of happier times. "I know, I will make her a butterfly." The little girl slept and the boy set to work. He carved the butterfly body from the core of dry cornstalk and made legs from straw. Carefully, he cut the wings out of a brittle corn leaf. The leaf was narrow, so he had to make long, slender wings. He painted the insect with bright colors. The thin pigment spread out, making the eyes very large, and he formed a delicate pattern of lines on the corn leaf wings. He admired his creation. Although it did not look exactly like a butterfly, it was a beautiful creature. She heard that they were alone in the village, and the little girl began to cry. The cornstalk creature helped her forget how sad she really was. All day she played with the beautiful toy, which swirled around and twirled at the end of a thread. That night, before sleep, the child said, "Please fly away and find us some food." For a moment, it seemed the brittle wings fluttered, though, as if it could hear her. While she slept, the boy heard the buzzing sound. "Thlini-ni, let me go," he heard. Looking up, he saw the butterfly spinning into the moonlight. "Thlini-ni, ni-ni-ni," hummed the insect, darting around the room with a twang like a bowstring, shot straight up through the sky, and soared into the night. The creature flew south to the land of the everlasting summer, where the corn maidens lived. There they are. For an instant, he rested on the silken tassel of a corn plant. Then he flew to another and another, and in this way he finally came to the corn maiden's dwelling. The creature found the two spirits strolling through the green fields and told them all about the boy and the sister who had been forgotten. "We will gladly help the two little ones. There was once a time when they offered us food, and we have not forgotten their kindness." The maidens summoned their messengers and directed them to deliver food to the children. The creature thanked the corn maidens and happily hummed his way back to Hawika. When the children woke up, the house was filled with baskets of beans and squash. A mound of corn reached all the way to the ceiling. Ha! The little girl found him in a dark corner, perched on a painted jar, the cornstalk creature. He sat very still as though he knew nothing about this mysterious food delivery. Brother and sister had plenty to eat in the days that followed. As time passed and winter waned, a warm wind blew in from the south and melted away the snow. One morning, the children went out to plant corn, and the boy sprinkled a handful of cornmeal on the ground. He thanked the corn maidens for their blessings. He poked deep holes in the dirt and dropped in seed corn. The little girl covered the kernels with dirt. That night, a misty rain fell over Hawika. By morning, the children were surprised to see that tiny corn plants had shot through the soil. Long, silver, wavy leaves and silver tassels blooming. When the sun rose on the fourth day, the plants had sprouted heavy ears of white and yellow corn. Happily, they picked the ears, dug a pit, and roasted them. Filled with fresh corn in their bellies, they fell asleep. Well, as the children slept, the Ashiwi returned to Hakiwa. Humbled by the great famine, they had come to replant their fields in hope for an ample harvest. When they saw the ripening corn, the people were astonished. "We have been blessed by the corn maidens," they said to one another. One of the elders had noticed the brother and the sister sleeping at the edge of the cornfield. The little girl was holding a wonderful toy, an insect made of cornstalk. "These two little children are the ones who have been blessed." The chief stepped forward. "Let us honor the corn maidens, and let us learn from the children who have received their gifts. Then perhaps we too may share in this blessing." From then on, the people were careful not to take the corn maidens' gifts for granted. They respected the boy and the girl and the sister and learned their ways of kindness. The cornfields thrived and all the Ashiwi prospered. And what became of the cornstalk creature, you ask? To this day, in early summer, when the corn is beginning to bloom, he appears. Never content with his resting place, he hums from corn tassel to corn tassel. He is known as Dragonfly. The end.